I just have to. Okay, very good. So now should be okay. So let me start. Again, welcoming you. So this is the uh, second lecture of our series of meaningful tourism as a tool for developing sustainable tourism in Africa. So we had five lectures on five different countries in Africa, namely South Africa, Kenya, Tanzania, Cameroon, and Zimbabwe. And so now we are going to look a bit more detailed in the tools and the key performance indicators to create and measure benefits and satisfaction. So, and we will have two more lectures coming exactly at the same time next Tuesday and the Tuesday after that. But for today, let me start with this one. Yes. So, and let me start by saying that, of course, participation here is completely free. And for that, well, we have decided to do that to sponsor this event, but also the Tourism Institute. We are very thankful that they also have made a decision to offer this to everybody in Africa for free. If you want to have a participation certificate, we are happy to provide this. For that, we have to ask a small fee of $30. Please drop us a line if you want to have your participation certificate signed by both the directors of the Tourism Institute and by myself for the Meaningful Tourism Center. So today we will talk about the tools and the key performance indicators to create and measure benefits and satisfaction. And in the other two lectures, then we will talk about the holistic approach, explaining how everything is connected with each other. And also we will have our friend Vinod from AROI coming to join for the presentation to tell you how to earn money from sustainable behavior by saving energy and water and creating less waste, and by actually earning money from selling carbon credits with the help of AROI. And the last lecture will be a step-by-step guide how to successfully implement the meaningful tourism approach. So today, as I said, we will talk about the tools we offer and the key performance indicators. And after the introduction, I will do a short recap for those of you who have not been participating last week in the first lecture, and then we will concentrate on the meaningful tourism tools and on the key performance indicators. And at the end, there will be a Q&A session. So if you have any questions, please keep them in mind, and we will talk about this at the end when we are able to answer questions. And also, if you have comments, of course, all this is very welcome. Let me also mention that everybody who is registered for the online lectures about Africa will get free access to the Meaningful Tourism Weekly, which is providing you every week with news about the meaningful tourism movement. And of course, if you don't want this, you can cancel it anytime if for some reason you're not interested. So, what is the Meaningful Tourism Center? Very briefly, is a non-profit organization based in London, with the headquarters here in Kathmandu, where I'm speaking from at the moment. And we are very glad that we have partners and trainers around the world, including many countries in Africa. I think more than 10 countries now, where we have a local trainer, a local partner, and so where we can offer on-the-ground services easily. So what we provide, and we will talk about this in detail more today, research, training, consulting for companies, organizations, and institutions around the world. And well, I'm old enough to have by now almost 5 decades experience in international tourism, working as a consultant, as a trainer, as a publisher, as an author, as an event organizer, and also for many years as a university professor for international tourism management. And because in the last 5 years, I have concentrated on developing the meaningful tourism paradigm. Many people now call me Prof. M for meaningful with a capital M. So if you're interested who is speaking to you, so just briefly, you can see I've been growing up in Berlin and I've been working all my life in international tourism, mostly with China. So I started 2004, the China Outbound Tourism Research Institute, which is now part of the Meaningful Tourism Center. And in 2021, founded the Meaningful Tourism Center. And also for at least 15 years, I've been working in Africa in a couple of countries in the north, like Tunisia and Egypt, and in the east, like Kenya, Mauritius, Réunion, and also in South Africa. And you see, well, I'm connected to a number of international organizations. I'm very happy to be of service there. And the last line, you can see that last year, actually, I moved from Europe, away from Europe, and living now in Kathmandu in Nepal. And this is the most important part of the Meaningful Tourism Center. These are our trainers, our partners in different countries. And you can see we have from Namibia to Bali to Sri Lanka to Zanzibar to Zimbabwe, people everywhere. And also, I'm happy to say that we have about 50% ladies. So we are more or less equal in the number of men and women doing this work, and all of them are engaged in sustainable tourism and engaged in not only earning money for their work, but doing something meaningful, doing something more than just earning money. And also important to mention is that PATA, the Pacific Asia Travel Association, in April this year, and you can see a photo up there, the moment this happened in Turkey, in Istanbul, in April, has adopted as the official vision of the organization for the whole Pacific Asia or Asia Pacific region, that a meaningful Pacific Asia tourism economy, that this is what we should strive for. And so therefore, when we talk about Africa, we hope that we can soon convince the African leaders that they will follow Sweden. Because Europe is the past, Asia is the present, but Africa is the future, the youngest continent on our planet. And of course, we think meaningful tourism is a tool for sustainable and profitable success. So therefore, just briefly, if you missed the first lecture, a short recap, what is meaningful tourism? And if you want to see the full lectures for the 5 countries, thanks to our partner at the Tourism Institute, there's a free download for them if you go to this institutetourism.com/mt-lectures/ you can download it and look in more detail. So here, just a brief version. Meaningful tourism paradigm is based on the insight that all stakeholders in tourism and hospitality need to receive objective benefits and subjective satisfaction from tourism and hospitality activities to support the sustainable development of destinations, companies, and organizations. And we define 6 main stakeholders for this holistic approach, namely the travelers, the host communities, the employees working in tourism service providing companies and organizations, the companies themselves, governments on different levels, and the environment, both locally and globally. Why are we talking about a new approach? Because clearly international tourism, along with the whole world, is at a crossroad. So we can see if we open the news every day now, unfortunately, climate change is destroying people's livelihood, killing people, and is also destroying many business models. So when we talk about beach tourism, about skiing, about walking around city centers. All this is endangered by floods, by heat waves, by other weather events, and so we see we need a change here. Also, we see that AI is changing tourism in more ways than even the internet did before, and some of them are positive and some of them are negative if we don't do anything about this. And also, all this is based on customer demand changing clearly from sightseeing and recreation to transformative experiences and special interest trips. That the more and more travelers, especially the more affluent, the more experienced ones, are not only want to take a photo and rush to the next place, but really want to meet people, to learn about local culture, to be part of it, and have experiences which are transforming them and making them a more full and better, hopefully, person. So as a result, we see that quantity is replaced by quality. So it's not so much about getting more customers, but getting them to stay longer, to spend more money, and getting more involved so that they also become ambassadors of your destination, of your company in the future. We see that a lot of tour operators will have a big problem because they will be replaced by AI-powered personal assistant apps. If you're not offering something special, if you just offer a normal package tour, sightseeing round trip, that will be not something you can actually economically survive on in the next coming years. So you better specialize or use AI for yourself. That means that for African destination companies, the chances are very good that you can avoid repeating mistakes, as in many areas tourism is not so developed yet, and adopt willingly, knowingly, with the help of Winning for Tourism, to the current and the future developments. And for that, you need a holistic approach, looking at all the stakeholders and the whole situation as a whole. So we can see that transformational tourism is a part of the transformation economy, as Joseph Pine, who was a co-author of the book about the experience economy in 1999, now is one of the major experts talking about the transformation economy, where you can see that from the experiences we have been talking about, where it is about staging experiences. It is now transformations where it is about guiding the customers, but they have to do and involve themselves much more than before. So we can see that climate breakdown is dominating the coming decades. Whatever we do from tomorrow morning, we know so much damage has already been done. We see the new technologies and the changing of the demand. So therefore, when we talk about meaningful tourism, it's not a nice idea and say, oh yeah, I'm a nice guy, I will stop using plastic straws in my restaurant. It's about survival, no less than that. And it's about the future development and the survival of destinations, organizations, and companies. So to wrap this short recap up, so what is Meaningful Tourism offer? A tool to analyze the situation, a tool to align the interest, and that's very important, not to have balances, but alignment, to develop a strategy, to use smart KPIs, and we will talk more about smart KPIs later on, to monitor the progress, to compare yourself with other places, and use also this as a way to educate both university level and also vocational training level, and to help the discourse with the general public that they better understand what are the benefits of tourism if tourism is done in the right way. So that just a brief recap. So as I said, if you want to look more closely, one of the easiest way to do that is look at the other lectures which were given last week and which are available at the Tourism Institute website. So let's have a look at what actually can you do, what are we offering, and what we are very happy to do together with our local trainers. And so these are basically three levels. So we have the entry level where it's about self-assessment. We have as a key element the Meaningful Tourism transformative game workshops and also source market workshops, which are offline with the help of the local trainers where you are. And we have implementation support, again on different levels. And we will talk about this a little bit more also. And of course, for African destinations, this is especially customized because Zimbabwe needs different support than Copenhagen. So starting with the entry level, so this is a very simple tool. This is a self-assessment for individual companies. So if you are a company or organization by yourself, you want to start, so you can just do a self-assessment. So providing using 24 smart KPIs, which are provided by us, and you have to do a self-assessment to analyze where you are in this 24 KPIs, and then have to make a commitment to say, okay, we want to improve our performance for at least two of the KPIs with a defined starting point and a defined goal and a defined action plan, how we want to achieve the goal. And this is something you tell us, and we will evaluate it. And if it is accepted, then you're recognized as a Meaningful Tourism Movement member. So let me clearly say, we are not doing certification with a fixed number of points or of criteria you have to fulfill, because from my experience, this is too rigid a tool to be used all over the world for all kinds of companies. And also, in many cases, people have a certification. They say, okay, now I have something to hang behind my desk, and then I can go back to sleep. So this is a movement. This is about continuous moving forward and continuous change. So therefore, that's why we say, okay, you get recognized as a Meaningful Tourism Movement member. And after half a year, we will have an online consultation talking to you. So how's the progress? What have you learned? Where are you now? And after 12 months, we will receive a documentation, and then if you want a renewed self-assessment and commitment. How much does it cost? Well, this is really something where we try to do this available for everybody. So if you are a company, and when we talk company, we also always mean also organizations and associations and so on. If you have less than 10 employees, it is just one-time payment of $99. If you are a little bit bigger with 10 or more employees, it's $199. For that, well, you get all the materials for the self-assessment, the evaluation of the assessment and the commitment, and you're recognized if accepted for 1 year as a Meaningful Tourism Movement member. So you will receive a logo, you will be listed on our website, you will be mentioned in the Meaningful Tourism Weekly newsletter we do every week. And after half a year, you get a free online consultation on the progress. That is half an hour that is included in the price. And after 1 year, so we will evaluate your documentation, and if it is acceptable, then you are recognized as a certified Meaningful Tourism Movement member for the second year. And to keep the status, of course, after 1 year, you can do a new round of self-assessment and commitment to improve at least two others or maybe more of the same KPIs within a year, so you can keep the status of certified Meaningful Tourism Movement member. And as such, you will receive preferred treatment for publications, conferences. So we will obviously mention those who are in the movement preferred when we talk to journalists at conferences and so on, or invite you if you want to be actually a panel member or a speaker at the many conferences we are organizing or co-organizing all around the world. In our PR, in our social media communication, so that will be clearly helping you to become much more visible. And also, if you participate in trainings or workshops, or we can provide you with some implementation support, you will get some reduction in the prices. And what we are currently working on is that at the moment, this is done in a normal uh, electronic way with Word and Excel sheets, but we are working on an app where that will be soon easier, that the self-assessment and the commitment can be done within a AI app in a very simple way. So this is the entry level, and the next level is I want to talk about is a meaningful transformational game workshop. This is, of course, not for one small company, but rather for DMOs or associations of uh, service providers in one region or one kind of museums or national parks or whatever. And it can also be done for, and it's an offline training done physically by our local trainers, if necessary, with support also from the headquarters, from myself. And this is something which is organized with the organization. And of course, it can also be done for bigger companies, for a hotel group or a big national park, a big museum, all this kind of possibilities. And it is game-based, so that what makes it a bit different. It's not just like now, just somebody talking and you have slides to look at, but it's game-based where the attendees get roles, one piece of paper with a small description of the role within the 6 stakeholder groups, and it will also teach people how to prioritize alignment over compromising or balancing. And you will also learn in more detail how to use smart KPIs. So why using this kind of transformational game workshop? Well, because of AI, a lot of the information, which are simple facts, while you can find now asking Gemini or OpenAI, or even if you're old-fashioned ChatGPT, which used to be new last year, now it's already old. And of course, as we mentioned, also this is also because demand structures are changing, so you can't get away with a simple package tour sightseeing tour anymore. You have to understand the interests of the different stakeholders more deeply. And of course, also there are geopolitical tensions. Well, we don't have time to go into that today, but we are all aware of also how this can create problems. So that means in all tourism training and tourism education, we need to evolve from the knowledge delivery method to developing skills. And that is something where if you can do much better if you do this based on a game with roles. So what we need are skills for critical thinking, for how to use information. There's so much information. All of this is fake. How to know which information is important and trustworthy. To how to use technology, how to adapt to change and innovation, and of course also as tourism is a fields where we are always connecting with strangers and communicating with strangers. So I'm a German, so in the German language, the old word for tourism is Fremdenverkehr, having communication with strangers. So that is exactly what we're talking about. So it's also intercultural, and of course, it's also interdisciplinary. So we are using a game workshop here because this is a transformational experience where people might be playing a very different role for what they do in their real life. So your cleaning woman will become the CEO, and the CEO will become a receptionist, and so on. So we will understand more about the complexities of tourism management, but also to understand what are the interests of other people and other stakeholders in this workshop, which is normally a 1 day workshop. Actually, it can also be done for as a 2 day workshop, especially if it's for companies and organizations who want to go further in the development of actually strategies, and also for students at higher education institutions, we can also have a more academic version. So the trainers are the local certified Meaningful Tourism Center trainers, which also speak the local language if it's necessary to use another language. And the number of participants, well, the minimum is 6 people because we have 6 stakeholders. And from the experience, the best result is if the number is about between 12 and 24. But of course, it can also be 30 or something in between. But if it's more than 30 people, then it will be difficult for everybody to find time to speak. And the experience will be still good, but not so intense anymore. So there will be a space needed, which the organizers are providing, and everybody will get a certification, and that's a certification of participation. So it's not a certification in the way you have a GSTC certification, and you will be added to the list of certified participants on the MTC website, unless you say you don't want that. So it's different because game-based learning, and all the people who know about education are agreeing on that. That means people remember and apply what they learn. So it's not just listening to something, but doing something that is much more active and much more likely that you keep this in your mind. So it will be a non-hierarchical collaboration. So you will play different roles, and you will see that everybody has genuine interests which have to be taken care of. It is globally tested, so we do this all around the world. It can be scaled, and it can be made replicable. So if you have organization and you want to do this at 10 different locations in your province or whatever, it's possible. It can be white labeled or co-branded. So if you want to do this under your own name, or at least in a co-branding, we are happy to discuss this kind of things. And it is offered in many different languages, as our local trainers obviously speak the language in the local destination. How is the typical structure of a one-day workshop? Well, we don't have to go to all the details, but you can see it is 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon, and it's always a mix between having a plenum part where everybody is together, and then the stakeholder groups will then separate and discuss among themselves, and then so that will be the morning and the first half of the afternoon, and then the last part of the afternoon will then be to develop KPIs, and with the KPIs, what is the actions to make things happening, and so there will be a final discussion, some feedback, the certificates will be handed over, and certainly we will end with a group photo. Well, we have to talk about money. So this is for one day, the price for this is $1,500. And if it's a 2-day workshop, it is $2,000 plus the domestic travel costs and accommodation for the trainer. And of course, this is based also that for each of the trainings, the content will be customized depending if you are a DMO of a city, or you're a rural area, or you're a museum, or a hotel group, or an airline, or an airport, whatever. So that is part of what you're paying, is that customization, and you get all the certification and everything that is coming with it. We are very happy to help, as of course not everybody can pay this out of his or her own pocket. We're very happy also to help to convince donors or other organizations helping with capacity building that they pay this for the people who get the training. And so I'm also happy to be present online if that is needed. And well, we have a price of $500, but In places like Africa, we will do this probably without payment, so we will waive this money to get things to make it easier to get things happening. And for full semester bachelor or master programs, and for the implementation support programs, of course, that depends on what are we talking about. We also have, for the same cost, Meaningful Tourism source market workshops, where we talk about how transformation experiences are best offered to visitors from the main source markets of the destination. For Africa, obvious one, where also I personally know a lot about, is China, which is for most countries in Africa, except in the area around South Africa, the number one source market already. But of course, also it's also about other parts of Asia. It's about Europe. It's about the Middle East. And this is how to prepare and train the local communities and the employees for the new visitors coming, how to empower the companies to adapt products, which is often needed, and how to adapt the storytelling, how to create the political frames, well, visa, big topic, and how to include the different customer groups in the quest to protect the environment. So, as we said before, if you are bringing people into the community so that they feel part of the local situation, then they are more likely to take good care of the environment. And finally, talking about the implementation support packages, so a kind of advanced consulting, where we provide assistance and guidance in the development of strategies, of customizing smart KPIs, develop the activities to improve the KPI readings and methods to collect the relevant data to see what is happening. And this will be done again by the local trainers and by additional Meaningful Tourism Center experts. So we see some examples here. So develop a detailed strategy and KPI development, including the data collection. And this can be once, so you create your own ideas and we just give a comment, or it can be done over a long period of time intensively together. Developing of marketing tools, of AI-powered real-time dashboard, especially for you. So that will be something which will become very normal in a few years. I think we will all have this, and we try to be a little bit ahead of the wave here and offer this already now. We are very experienced in organizing conferences, in organizing publications for you, and also we will support your application for the Meaningful Tourism Award. By the way, the Meaningful Tourism Award 2025 is still open until the end of the year. So if you think you are an organization, a company doing something already in the sense of meaningful tourism, or you want especially to nominate some other people, please do so. Drop us a line before the end of December. So these support packages are, of course, customized according to the needs, the wishes, and the budget of the customer or the supporting aid development organizations. Again, in many cases, that will be something, especially if it's a bit bigger package, where we will do this together with third-party financing. We will support two efforts to get that. And let me mention here that we have a skill matrix developed where we provide an easy overview about the many different skills and experiences our trainers around the world have, and which can be added easily to any project beside the work of the local trainer and the people here in Kathmandu, including myself. So, but we have also people from experts in lawyers to experts in community-based tourism, experts in geology, in biology, in agriculture, and so on, whatever is needed. And last point to mention that all the workshops, all the trainings, all the implementation support can, of course, be integrated into existing capacity building and tourism strategy programs. So that is the easiest way to see what is your national or regional government already doing, or your tourist trade association, what is already done, how we can slot into that. And the KPIs developed can also be used for the reporting obligations for ESG or for other SDG based reporting you might have to do, and which might also be a part of the requirements for donor organizations to support what we are doing. So last point I want to raise is, of course, what are meaningful tourism KPIs? So we talked a lot about KPIs. Maybe not everybody is fully aware what we are talking about. So the background for this is that during the over-tourism debate, which started before the pandemic, when in many destinations, the local people started to protest about too many tourists coming in places like famously Barcelona and Venice and other places. And then during the COVID pandemic, also there was a lot of debate going on. Everybody had more time than they wanted for such debates. And most experts agreed that tourism has to change and that arrival numbers are not suitable as the main KPI anymore because they do not measure the objective benefits and even less the subjective satisfaction of the different stakeholders. Unfortunately, a lot of this has been forgotten after the pandemic ended. So when we look at Eurotourism, they are still basically just talking about arrival numbers. If you look at the press releases of national tourism ministries and so on, it's still talking about arrival numbers when they are not really very helpful in understanding what is going on and in understanding who is benefiting from tourism. So you need smart KPIs for every stakeholder, and especially when making usage of the new technologies connected to AI for easier data collection and analysis. So that is, as we said, one of the things we will do and we will support very much in the future. So because simply what you cannot measure, you cannot manage. So smart KPIs. What are smart KPIs? Well, SMART is an abbreviation standing for S for specific, M for measurable, A for achievable, R for realistic, and T for timely. So this is not saying what we hear from politicians saying by 2060 we will be carbon neutral, blah, blah, blah. So who knows by 2060, that is 35 years from now. Nobody will remember that. Most people who are saying this will not be living anymore. So we need something which is starting at with a T and timely. So where we talk about 6 months or 1 year, not 20 years. It has to be specific, clearly what are you talking about? And it has to be something you can measure. Other than otherwise it will just be blah blah blah. It can be achievable, so we cannot have totally unrealistic goals, which we will never reach. So there has to be realistic, and then together makes them smart. So give you one example. If you're on a road trip, so how many songs you have in your playlist might not be very important, but how much fuel is in your tank, and if you know where to go, if you can have signposts, this is much more important. So KPIs are such essential signpost, and so I found in the literature one example, which is not directly from tourism, but from healthcare. So typically, if it's not a smart KPI, you will say something like a healthcare institution, a hospital saying, oh, we have to enhance the patient's experience. So patients have been complaining, we have to make them happier and make them more happy with their experience here. If you stay on this level, everybody will not, and nobody will do anything. So if you use a smart framework, you might come up with a goal after some debate and discussion. Increase the patient satisfaction score by 25%, focusing on outpatient services and based on a quarterly feedback survey over the next year. So if you have a goal like that, this is specific. So it says exactly it's about a patient satisfaction score, and you talk in that case about outpatient services, so those patients who are not in the hospital but just coming there for some treatment. It has to be measurable in the way. So yes, we say we will develop a feedback survey score by collecting the feedback. It is achievable. So if 25% is a realistic goal, or should it be 10% or 50%, that is, of course, what you have to discuss within your organization as widespread as possible to see what is a realistic and achievable goal. It has to be relevant because obviously the patient experience is very, very important if you want to survive as a organizer, especially if this is a private company. And it's time bound because you say, okay, it is 25% within 1 year, and every 3 months we will check if we are on the right way to reach this goal. So that's an example, and you can, of course, transform this to your business easily, that this is a smart KPI. And so to come to the end of the presentation, so let's talk about some examples of smart KPIs, and I just put them very quickly here. So, and that is a part of the transformational game workshops where this, and then the implementation support where these KPIs are customized for each of the destinations of the companies we're dealing with. But just some examples. For almost everybody, it is sentiment. So how do people feel about this? So we just talked about this, having a survey score, and this is already measured for many places. So you can have existing data used. So how do people like a place? And you have, of course, now all this TripAdvisor and other social media where people are giving feedback and are scoring on booking.com and so on. Other KPIs, what's the percentage of return visitors? What's your diversity of source markets in terms of geography? Are you putting all eggs in one basket or not? And what is your diversity also with respect to age, interest, and so on? What is the average length of stay? And how much are people spending per day or per trip? So for the host community, again, sentiment, how happy or unhappy are they with the fact that tourists are coming? Are they happy that and proud that people come from far away to see what they have to offer in their local culture, the local cuisine, and so on? Or are they annoyed that tourists are pushing up prices and taking away their parking lots and their apartments? What is the percentage of work and tourism jobs for the host community? So how important is tourism? How developed? What is the percentage of women in leading positions in tourism? What is the number of bachelor and master programs at the universities in this region, if it's for a destination? What is the Human Development Index position? And what's the position in the Corruption Index? For employees, again, sentiment. And what's the average length of stay in the job for a bigger company or for the whole industry in a country or a region? What's the percentage of locals in leading positions? Very important. That is not only that the locals are the cleaning woman and the general manager is a Canadian or a Dutch guy. The level of prestige of work in tourism. So part of the sentiment of the host community is also, so do they think that this is something you only do if you have nothing else to do, or you're not qualified for anything else? Or is it something you can be proud of to show your culture to the visitors? Of course, what's the level of payment in comparison to other similar jobs in other industries? And what is the percentage of jobs in the tourism industry which are 12 months full-time jobs and not just seasonal or part-time jobs? Because only with full-time year-round jobs you can have a career path and you can have training. For companies, what is the percentage of overall companies engaged in tourism and hospitalities? How many percent of these are SMEs? And so what is percentage of locally owned companies compared to international uh, bigger companies running beach hotels or places like that? What is the percentage of of companies offering regular trainings and clear career paths for their employees? What's the percentage of companies with increasing employment numbers? And what's the percentage of companies with meaningful or sustainable strategies? Again, that is a good example for customization. If you're a company, depending on what you're doing, there will be smart KPIs clearly specific for your business. So governments, what's the existence of, is there an existence of sustainable tourism development plans? How clearly is the targets and activities governments on local, regional, national level are doing? What is the level of support of capacity building and infrastructure development for the tourism industry? What is the democracy index reading and what's the easiness to start and to do business? What are visa policies? And finally, the environment, last certainly but not least. So what is the development of pollution, of biodiversity? What is the effects of local climate change? What are the numbers of NGOs per million inhabitant? And how about water and electricity sources? How much of this is coming from sustainable ways of getting the water and especially producing the electricity? Again, what is the sentiment of the locals towards the environment and what's the sentiment of the visitors towards protecting the environment? So this is so in a nutshell and very quickly, what can smart KPIs look like? Again, depends on where you are. With this, I come to the end of my presentation, and I would like to welcome everybody who has a question or a comment. Before we do this, just to remind you, so same time next week, we will talk about more about the holistic approach, how the different parts are fitting together, and we will have a more detailed explanation by an expert about how to earn money from carbon credit trading and from the reduction of using electricity and water. And then on the 23rd of December, the last lecture will be about offering a real step-by-step guide how to implement meaningful tourism in Africa and in your location in Africa. With that, you have to register again on the Tourism Institute website, so please don't forget to do that. And so before we open the floor for the questions, also let me just share our contact data. So if you want to do more in this field, if you have any additional questions, if you want to get a participation certificate, please contact us on WhatsApp with this email number or on our website, and you will all be receiving our Meaningful Tourism Weekly newsletter starting from probably next week. With this, let's go to question and answers, and I hope that I can hear some of your comments and questions. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so anybody who wants to use this opportunity to ask, so don't be shy to do that. So if it is not the case, well, then we will come to an end for this week. But again, if you have, okay, if somebody is, no, I heard somebody, so no. Oh,
Hello.
yes, please, Mrs. Masunda, go on.
All right. Thank you very much for the insightful presentation. I am someone from the same field, and I would want maybe to publish some of the papers that I write along the environmental sustainability within the tourism industry. Would you be able to assist in publishing?
Uh, I didn't fully understand the question. It's about publications. So, but what I can tell you is that we are working currently on a special edition of a academic journal, which is published by our friends in Bali at the university there, and which will include a lot of the discussions and information we having in last week's Africa specific lectures, and this week we have 4 lectures for South Asia, and of course also the lectures like what we're doing just now. So this will be a publication which should be out early next year. We are also working on a academic paper which will be more of giving some theoretical background about the meaningful tourism paradigm, but will also have a couple of ebooks. One ebook will be with the Meaningful Tourism Award winners and their stories and their examples, their best practice examples. So again, if you feel that you have something done which would be good for to receive an award for, please contact us. And we will also probably do a ebooks at the beginning of next year where we to put together the some best editorials and articles which have been published in the Meaningful Tourism Weekly in 2025. So these are publications we are planning at the moment. Well, we will also do probably a bigger book on the topic sometime in 2026, but this is not clearly finished. We will have to talk to the major publishers about that. So this is what we are doing. But of course, also besides this, there are a couple of people who are writing PhD papers on meaningful tourism, where we are also happily supporting their work and providing them with information and feedback. So if you're in this field, that is also something where we are very happy to help you. So I hope this answered your question. If not, tell me what exactly you want, what else you want to know.
Thank you very much. You've answered my question. I will get in touch with you. Uh, Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, and also Shavada, Betsy, also I see on the chat that you think that what we have been doing here was insightful. Happy for that, and I'm sure there will be a lot of people who are watching this presentation and this online lecture as a video later on, and also for all of you. This is something which is not supposed to be just some academic nice talking about, but this is about something where we should create action. And if we can do this together, I'm very happy to do that. And this lecture will be available online on the website of the Tourism Institute. And let me use this opportunity to thank again the Tourism Institute for supporting us in all our work. And again, today helping us to make this online lecture happening and make it happening for free. With this, I think we come to the end. And I think so. Thank you, everybody who has been spending time either live or has just spent time on looking at the presentation later on. And if there's any further questions, don't stop in contacting us and contacting our local trainers throughout Africa. And as we say here in Nepal, namaste and goodbye.
Thank you so much. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Namaste.
Goodbye.
Namaste. Namaste. Bye-bye.
Ella.
Oh. C'est bon.